Hey everybody, Snake Doc here, and I have a new purchase here in front of us that I'm really excited about. This is one of the rare 92FS Inox or Inox stainless, and this is the Vertec. So it has the straight back strap as opposed to the traditional Beretta hump. They only made these for a bit in the 90s into the early 2000s. Then they went away for a long time, and then they made them for a 2-year run in 2014 and 15. This happens to date to 2014, and this is one of the 2015 was when they transitioned from making guns in Maryland to the new Tennessee plant. Now, the Tennessee plant has had some issues. They've had some finish quality problems. They've had some milling issues where you're seeing some chatter and some slides that were improperly milled. You'll see slides that are completely way off, like symmetrically, very asymmetrical. And you can see that this one is done extremely well. There's some residual grease right here. And that's not rust or anything like that. That's just some dried grease. I don't know if this has ever been fired. But those of you that know the 92FS know that the normal model has a 4.9 inch barrel and the barrel sticks out a bit. And on the Vertec model on this one, it is a 4.7 inch barrel, and you can see so it's almost flush with the end of the slide. It doesn't have the reverse crown that the Elite 2 has, but it is a shortened, it's a 0.2 of an inch shorter than the traditional 92FS. This one also does have a rail. There is only one slot on it, whereas like on some of the new railed models, I think they have 2 or 3 slots on it. This only has one slot cut in it. It's still an aluminum frame, and it is anodized in this matte gray color, and it just looks outstanding. So this one, for whatever reason, was a 10 round model. So it came with 2 10-round mags. Not a big deal. This isn't a carry gun. I have a couple 18-round Metgar mags on the way to me right now. But the main reason that I'm making this video is that we're going to do a little bit of upgrading on this today. So here we have a D-spring, the hammer spring. You can see here it says Beretta USA. It's got the part number. And this happens to be from Brownells, but we're going to do a D-spring swap to lighten the trigger pull up a little bit. We also have some Hogue grip screws. There you can see these are stainless straight cut. I went with straight cut as opposed to hex, just for whatever reason. I've had both. I don't really care either way, but I just went with the slot because that's what I found. And then I have from NDZ Performance, we have a stainless steel guide rod. So we're going to replace the plastic guide rod here. You can see that's the fluted plastic guide rod that they went to. And we're going to switch that out for a stainless steel one, just so it'll look the same as the barrel, which, I guess, having black controls on it, whatever, it's not a big deal. The other thing I want to mention is that, sorry, the dogs are barking upstairs. That's something, probably a squirrel outside. But Beretta started going to polymer coated controls, so they do have steel skeletons and everything, but they use the polymer coating on them to reduce the size of the metal. And they say that the polymer is self-lubricating. So this does have the polymer coated trigger, the polymer coated left side safety lever. This side is just stamped metal. So I don't know if you can see that's a different shape than this side, but this side is polymer coated. The lanyards, this, I'm not sure if that one is, so I'm not going to quote on that. But anyhow, and then you can see that this is a factory 3-dot sight configuration. Being on a Vertec slide, the sights are dovetailed and replaceable. So let's get into removing the grips so we can get the hammer spring changed, and then we'll pop the top off of it and switch out the guide rod. So I'm just going to find a screwdriver bit here that fits these grip screws. And this will work fine. Underneath these grip screws, there is like a serrated washer, and we're going to be reusing those. So when you take your grip off, don't just dump it. Reach in through your mag well and pop it. And then when you take the grip off, just keep it in this orientation and the star washers will stay right in place. Being that this is a US made gun, the hammer spring retaining pin is going to be a solid, what they call the dog bone pin. And if this were a gun made in Italy, the retaining pin would be just a roll pin. Usually what I do if I get a Italian made gun and I have the roll pin, rather than spending the money on a dog bone pin, is I keep some broken drill bits, and I usually break the ones that are about the same size as that. And what I do is I just take a broken drill bit and I cut it with a Dremel so it's the same size as what that pin would need to be, and then that's what I end up using to replace the roll pin. So there's tension held on there by the hammer spring, so if it's not the exact perfect size, it doesn't matter because it's retained. So seeing as there's no lanyard loop to push up on here, we're going to use the bench block and just going to tap that pin out with a punch. And as soon as I get that pin to start moving, I'm just going to put my thumb over here so I don't launch it across the room. So let me move that up into frame. And when I start pounding, it's probably going to drown out the sound here. So I'm just going to make sure that that hole is where that pin is going to start to protrude from. And that's moving already, so there we can see it coming out of the frame. So now I'm just going to keep my thumb there. I'm going to push up on that, and then I'm going to push that pin out the rest of the way, and there it went. So there you can see the hammer spring cap coming out, and that is slanted. You see how that's slanted, so there's only one way to orient that the right way. My pin just fell out right here. And when I say dog bone pin, let me show you. You see how that is fat on either end of it and then not in the middle? So that's why they call it a dog bone. So let's see if the hammer spring will fall out. Yep. So here's our factory hammer spring, and we're going to compare that to our D-spring. I'm going to cut this package right here. And there we can see that there's a height difference. So it's about 3 coils difference. And this is the factory spring that's on the D models, and when it's a D model for double action only. So now what you need to do is, in this hole, you got to find the hammer strut and make sure that you surround it with the spring, which I believe I just did. And then you want to center that spring into your cap, and you're going to push down by hand, and then you can start your pin. And hopefully, if you need to turn it, just stick your punch in there and then turn your cap so that it's sometimes you can just work your punch across too. Like now I have my punch going across and it's got the orientation properly, so I'm going to bring my dog bone pin in from the other side. I must be just slightly off there. I just pushed that one out, so And I'm going to actually set that down and try tapping that with a mallet. And that didn't work. It just fired out. I'm just going to pause for a second. Okay, so I just had to reorient that, and then I just pushed that through by hand and popped my punch out. And there you can see that I was able to push that in completely flush on both sides. So we have our hammer spring changed, and you just want to verify that there is tension on there. You can go ahead and fire it because your slide's still on. We know this is empty, no magazine in there. We're going to decock it and the safety, and then we're going to go back on to fire. Here's our double action, much lighter, and then single action. Great. So we got that done. Let's put our grip panel back on with our new screws. So we have our panels back in place with our washers in there. We're going to unscrew or open up our bag of screws and dump those out. And let's take the old screws and put them in this bag so we don't lose them. Again, that was the 92018 Hogue Extreme. Those are the stainless. I don't know. Let's see if you can see that number 2. I don't know if that lot number is going to matter. Here's the UPC. And let's check our screwdriver bit and make sure that that is a good fit, and it's a perfect fit, so that's great. And what I do is I spin backwards until it's centered and then start tightening. And it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to use the washer with this. So let's knock the washers out of the panel. There's our 2 washers. You can see them right there. Let's put the panel back on. And let's try it now. So I'm really not liking how these fit because they're sitting way above the Vertec panel. So I don't know if there's special Vertec screws. Let's see if this one flushes out. No, look at how high those are sitting. So that's not cool at all. So I guess I won't be doing the grip screws. We're going to take these back out and compare them. Let's see. Okay, so there's the factory screw. And here's the stainless one. That one just... So there you can see the head's thicker and the shank is longer. And there's the Vertec one again. So that kind of stinks. I didn't know that. I've seen Vertecs with stainless screws, so I don't know why that doesn't work. So I'm gonna have to return those. I'm gonna put the washers back in place and secure the grip screws again. So we won't be doing that dress up item. Live and learn. Good info for you guys who have a Vertec and want to switch screws. I'm gonna have to do some research and find out what screws work. Yeah, that's way more flush. Alright, so this panel, that washer was hopping out. I'm just going to get them back in where they belong. And back with the factory screws, sorry. Let me just pause, I'll get that together, there's no point. Okay, so we got that back together. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pop the top off of there. And we can just pull that top off. Here's our bottom here. You can see some oil on the slide rails there. Really lightweight bottom on those because it is aluminum. There is our fluted guide rod, the plastic polymer one. We're going to switch that out here. And we're going to compare them real quick. Much heavier on the stainless, but there you can see they are, everything about them is the same dimensionally. This has a nice polished finish, and let me show you guys what the end looks like on that. So there is a bevel, and then you can see like a machining swirl. We kept the spring in the same orientation. I don't necessarily know that there is a correct way. It looks like they're both flattened out on either end. And then you're just going to push that in until it locks. And there it's sitting. You want to make sure it's sitting nice and flat like that. The one thing I did notice on this is there you can see there's a stamp that says X2. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's just something that they, like a proof mark, if you will. So let's put that back on and check for function here. We're just going to run that back, flip that lever, and then we're back in action here. We're going to decock. And then, so there you can see it smooth and function on there. I'm sure that's drowning my voice out, but that is smooth and function. Let's take a look at how the end looks there. I'll have to wipe the front of that slide down with a rag. There, that looks pretty good. And protrudes about the exact same as the barrel. There you can see it flush. Let me put it down on my palm here and try and get it out of the shadow. There you can see. So, a little bummed about the grip screws, but at least we got the guide rod and the D-spring in there. So we have a much better double action trigger pull and a better, slightly better single action. We're going to show that bit of take up here is our wall, and then nice pull. So that's it. 92 FS Vertec in Inox stainless finish. So thank you guys for watching, and always shoot safe.